Okay, well, welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Ed Talks podcast series. And I'm very happy to be with someone who probably doesn't need me to introduce him. He probably just needs to say anything. But anyway, I will. It's Phil Spencer. Hello, Phil.
Very good afternoon, Ed.
Thanks for coming in. Obviously, more used to having a camera trained on you.
It's nice not to have a camera
yeah,
train on me.
yeah,
It's nice
absolutely.
just to be sitting, chatting, fireside
Absolutely, a
with
sort
you.
of fireside chat. So, I mean, Phil clearly doesn't need a lot of introduction, although his and my lives have crossed occasionally in the past,
Yes.
and we both lived quite near to each other in London.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you've been able to develop quite a career for yourself in the property industry. It's been I'm sure it's been quite a journey for you. What I'm interested to find out is quite how that's sort of impacted on your ability to influence it.
Yeah.
Because clearly,
Yeah.
standing up and presenting the Esters is one thing, but your life, your property life,
Yeah.
has been pretty well exclusively based around the buying side.
Yes.
Was it always like
absolutely.
that? Tell us how it started.
I wanted to do various things at school, none of which involved doing any more exams. I wanted to join the army or play cricket. And neither of those came off. So, aged about 23, I was working for an estate agent.
Whereabouts? London,
Canterbury.
Canterbury.
The Alliance and Leicester in Canterbury. I think it was about 1991, recession. I was enjoying my work, enjoying the industry, enjoying being out and about.
It was a long recession, wasn't it?
Yes, it was tough. I never sold a house in 6 months. So I thought, well, I'm enjoying the job, but either I'm not very good at it, or there is a deep recession and just people aren't moving. And I didn't enjoy a lot of the things at that time that I was being asked to do by the branch manager in order to sell properties in a difficult market. So I thought to myself, well, it probably is time to pick up a pen again and take myself off to university and go and sit some exams and get qualified. And my plan was that when I came back to the industry that I had found and was enjoying, that I would be qualified as a surveyor, and perhaps I wouldn't be asked to do many of these things that I thought were perhaps...
So these are classic sort of cold selling
Exactly.
techniques, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, which happened, early 90s in the tough market.
I
There was some
remember.
fairly sharp practices going. So that I struggled on back to university, and actually having not done very well at school at all, I never dropped an exam going through my surveying degree, and it all went quite well.
I'm not sure that says more about your past schools or the standards
Or
of
the
the surveying exams, but anyway, whatever.
Moving on. Moving
You applied
swiftly.
yourself.
Yes, I did. I think if I'd done it when I was 18, 19, I probably wouldn't have applied myself. So that got me sort of further involved in the industry and slightly qualified. And towards the back end of that, I worked from a commercial agency, and I obviously did some surveying, and I saw friends of mine in London buying flats, and I understood the process. And people would end up in tears and so frustrated, and they'd never done it before, and it was hugely stressful and exciting, but it didn't always go well. And then I met someone on holiday who lived in the Far East, who said, "Oh yeah, I know London. Well, I don't know London, but I've just bought a flat in New Cross." And the agent, I said, "It's minutes from Harrods." And I said, "Well, it's minutes from Harrods by helicopter." and he thought, "Oh, what do you mean?" He didn't know his way around. No one had looked at it. So I then thought, is there a business case here for somebody to set up and help purchasers and help and guide, and that became Garrington Home Finders, which is where we first came across one another. So yes, always on the buying side, always wanting to help the person spending the money, and that business in itself led some years later towards the television to Channel 4. I got a call from a production company saying, this is 1999 at that point, we think property's going to be popular on telly. There wasn't anything, believe it or not. There was a time when there weren't any property shows on the telly. And I got a call saying, "Look, we like what you do. We've read about it. It's a niche. It's a bit of a niche market. It's a new service. they were developing the idea of following the kind of thrills and spills of people going out house hunting. They didn't know the first thing about it. They simply called me to say, can you come in for a bit of consultancy? What are we going to be faced with? It was nothing about presenting the show. It was just guiding them, talking to them about the process of buying.
Well, I think if you remember, we've had this conversation a number of times. Back then in the late 90s, actually, I was approached by the same production company, and my wife was running her own PR business in those days. And they'd obviously approached her and said, "Who do you think?"
Okay.
And she'd taken us on as clients, actually, at Douglas and Gordon in about 1996. She said, "Oh, you should talk to Ed." And so I went in and talked, and I'm ashamed to say, as I approached my 60th birthday, they said, "I'm afraid he's a bit old."
Well,
so
I've got a few years on you, Ed. Not
yeah.
many, but I've got some.
Well, you have, but you seem to have been around doing it forever, and which is why partly I'm just interested to know in terms of the other work that you do.
Yeah.
Because I understand you do. We'll come on to the business you started, which is designed to help buyers and give them intel, information, Move IQ, and indeed to help agents, Move IQ Pro. There's lots of bits there that'll sort of help people. But how have you found that your profile has helped you in terms of advising buyers? Has it helped? Because obviously Garrington itself unfortunately was a victim of the sort of crash, and like a lot of people, didn't survive after that. So you've had an opportunity to sort of reassess after that.
It does actually survive. It was taken on by one of my managers.
Oh, that's right. Of course. Apologies.
But no, it did suffer a bit.
Absolutely. But in terms of the way that your profile is now, how do you find that's helped you with buyers? Do they just innately trust you? Do you consult with people to help them develop better processes?
I'm certainly via a profile. Profile helps to open doors, and therefore I use it in that way to kind of connect with people and broaden my network and find better quality information, which I would hope enables me to give better quality advice. When we are filming the programs, whether it's Location or Love It or List It, the two major ones that I've made, we need good buyers. But we need good information and access to properties. And fortunately, because we get good buyers and we've absolutely vet the people that come on those programs to make sure that they can perform, make sure they're going to do what they say they're going to do, we've got a good reputation for that. And if you've got good buyers, then the agents don't mind opening doors.
So how do you do that? I mean, do you do that personally? Do you have a team that goes off and vets the buyers?
There's a big team, actually.
Yeah.
There's a big team. There's a big team of casting to find the right people, to find the people that we feel that we can actually help. I mean, we don't need to tell you, but the more desperate they are, the more we like it, because the more likely they are to make a decision.
No, absolutely. But you must get lots of people, wanting to go, "Oh, yes, I'd love to be on the telly,"
yes.
And then you have to try and work out whether they're really genuinely moving or not. So
yes,
does that
you're
mean,
absolutely right.
So is your criteria that they must have sold and have money in the bank ready to go, effectively?
We can't help people in a chain, because I can't negotiate a deal for them. Really,
that sounds like what any agent would say. We can't help anyone in a chain.
To come on I mean, it's different with Love It or List It, but to come on Location, you need to be in a position to go, position to make decisions, and we do check the bank statements. We make sure you've got a mortgage in principle.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got a solicitor signed up, because we are helping people through that process in the best way that we can.
You're investing a lot of time and money and effort in it. So.
I really don't think there are other television programmes where... I mean, it's an interesting process to watch. I've been doing it a long time, and Kirsty and I still find it's interesting. We still enjoy it. You know what it's like. You take somebody...
Well, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
What makes the industry fun
is
that each one is different, and you don't quite know what you're going to get.
But it's a massive buzz. For me, as a buying advisor, it's still a massive buzz to meet someone, sit them down, and they spill out their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations. I really want this, and I can't find that. And if only I could get this. To actually take somebody into that place that offers them all of those things, and their face flush, and they get excited, and bang, that's a real buzz.
And is it really as? I mean, if you were to turn around to an agent and say, "Oh, we're looking for someone." It's Phil here from Location. Do they go over the top? Is it really almost like mystery shopping? I mean, do you think that the agents you go to say, right, we've got someone looking, do they go the extra mile? Or is it really is it real fly on the wall stuff?
Good question. I like to feel that we get better quality information from the agent about things, about values, about market conditions, and probably primarily about things that are about to come on the market. And those are that's where we like to strike is where things are early to the market. I love getting that kind of information.
Yeah.
So yes, I've been around the country. There aren't many places I haven't been. It's been a pleasure and a privilege of working on that show for so long. Is traveling the country and meeting people in different parts.
And what's been your honest view? We were talking off air about, I mean, because I've had, since Douglas and Gordon and then going into View, but I've had extraordinary access to a wide range of estate agents of different, online, auction, hybrid, all over the UK. What's your view? I mean, I realise you've got to be a little bit charitable. Or maybe you don't have to be charitable. I'm just interested to hear what your view of the estate agency industry and how it's changed over that period. Because 1999 to now, it's 20 years, basically.
Yeah.
Do you think things have changed? Would you say it's got better, worse?
Without question, it's got better. I mean, we are more regulated as an industry now. But I think people are more aware of the role of the agent than they were 20 years ago. 20 years ago, people were still under the assumption when as a buyer, they walked into the estate agent about to spend, it's like walking into a shop, you're about to spend some money, you're going to be provided with the service. I think people nowadays are more aware of where the agent's loyalties are. But in terms of the role of the agent and what they do, well, I like to think they've definitely got better. They were good and bad agents, like they were good and bad doctors and football players.
But it's quite interesting in that case, because why does it now take twice as long as it did in 1979 to buy a house? So what is it that's changed to make it worse? If the agent understands the process better, what is it, do you think, that's making the process that more difficult for people to actually go through in terms of mortgages and the conveyancing process? Is it that bit of it that's got worse, which is why it takes so much longer?
If only I knew the answer to that. It's a complicated procedure. It's a complicated process. There's a lot of moving parts. Of course, the longer it takes, the greater the chances of something going wrong. I've always been a believer in momentum. You've got to get momentum into the deal at the beginning. You can't inject momentum halfway through. You've got to get everybody motivated on the deal, focused on the deal. And then they stop thinking about, maybe we've done the wrong deal, or maybe we got the wrong price, or you know what it's like.
Keeping things moving along is definitely an important part of it. I just, as you say, your business is your image is very much on the buying side and helping the agents, and there's no reason why you necessarily need to, or why any of us know exactly why the process is taking much longer.
You would hope that there's a lot of motivation to speed it up, but there's a lot of talk. I just don't see a lot of action.
Well, there is a lot of talk, and I think talk is very easy. I mean, I still sit on the industry forum for the Property Ombudsman, and there's a lot of talk about regulation and about how you speed it up. But of course, if you ask an agent what's wrong, they'll blame the mortgage and the solicitors. If you ask the solicitor, they'll blame the mortgage companies and the agent. So everyone just blames each other.
What do the law societies say?
Well, I think the Law Society, a lot of the prop tech industries around there at the moment are trying to fulfill some of the needs. They're trying to pull information in from sources which are publicly available to speed the process up. But whichever way you look at it, I can't help feeling that solicitors changing the process, if you could buy a property with a push of a button, solicitors would sort of be out of business.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, so
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, they are an agent earns their fee on commission on a deal.
Yeah.
Do the deal, get paid the commission. I mean, it's not in every case, but lawyers get paid by the hour.
Yeah.
So the longer it takes, the more they earn.
Yes, I'm sure that
but
some, I know there'll be the usual candidates will come through and say you can now buy conveyancing services very cheaply, 199 quid, all this sort of thing, which is fine if it's a regular freehold box property on an estate somewhere. That's fine, where you can cookie cut it. But for the vast majority of properties in the UK, that isn't the case. And you've got companies like Habito and Trussell trying to change the mortgage industry, or so that you can supposedly get a mortgage online. But I still think we're a long way away from being able to buy properties and get a mortgage at the push of a button. So the likes of you and I, in terms of, well, not me so much these days, I used to be an agent, but in terms of the buy side and the sell side, there's going to be an ongoing need for advice on both sides. And I was very interested to hear what you were saying earlier about your friend who thought that was told by his agent that New Cross was close to Harrods, as it is by helicopter. Classic example of why agents on the buy and sell side can be of use. Okay, so one of the things that you've been doing, and I've been watching over the last couple of years, obviously, is Move IQ, which is tell us what Move IQ is.
Well, Move IQ stemmed from an idea. Having had Garrington for many years, we looked after a fairly small number of people, and we had a very hands-on personal service through the whole process, and we charged people quite a lot of money. But I always believed at some point technology would enable a good level of service to be offered far wider
To the buyer.
Yep. To inform them and help them and guide them through the process, because there isn't a lot of information and guidance that is not tinged in some way by somebody who wants to sell you a house, somebody who wants to lend you some money. So technology does now enable that. So yes, I set up Move IQ just over, we're nearly 3 years in now. It's a site, all the advice is free, and I'm constantly uploading articles and YouTube videos and blogs and podcasts and as much information as I can get up there to help and guide and advise consumers, to renters and buyers.
Okay. So this is literally area-specific advice. It can be geographically based. It
yes.
can be holistically based, whatever.
How do you choose a solicitor? To what do you do if you find Japanese knotweed? Anything that I can think of that would so somebody can actually plug into the site. They've got a question on best renovation or most cost-effective extension.
Sure, and you have an unusual profile from that perspective in that you can get a B2C market. You can genuinely get that message out to people because of your profile. So actually that's a very helpful. I think one of the issues that a lot of companies in your position who are trying to do what you do is that they don't have the ability to get to the public. And obviously if you could, it's like me with Vuber, if I could turn around, we were talking a little bit earlier about this, if I could advertise on the telly that you could get into a property at weekends if you wanted to, and then if your estate agent says no, you say, well, haven't you not heard of Vuber then? They'd start using Vuber, but we have to advertise to B2B. So how have the numbers gone on Move IQ? Presumably it's because of your reputation, you're trying to go direct to consumers. Is Move IQ just for consumers?
Good question. It was set up just for consumers. And the kind of pitch for that, whilst there was a ton of information that was all available for free and access the site and crack on, the hope was that we built an algorithm. We got an algorithm for a property report, and that was for consumers. It is £17.99, and somebody who was considering buying a property, and this is where the tech came in. Somebody had seen a property. They'd gone home, kitchen table that night. Shall we buy it? Shouldn't we buy it? What should we offer on it? Well, all that debate. And that, I believed, was the time that you need the information. It is available at the press of a button, as we've been talking about. I had never met, and still haven't met, anyone who has, on the result of a local search, which is a month down the line, having decided that you want to buy the property and agreed the offer, and at the cost of several £100s, I've never met anyone who's changed their mind having read the local search. You may have, but I've never have. So I believed all that information, plus a ton more, on the property, who lives there, how long they've lived there, who lives next door, what they paid for the property, who's applied for planning permission, whether they've had it accepted or rejected, how far the local school is, what the class size is, catchment areas,
so
crime
literally
rates.
drilling right down.
Drilling hugely. Everything that I can possibly think of plugged into that algorithm. You press the button, £17.99, it spits out a 45-page report. That night, you can sit round the kitchen table discussing with your other half, this is the package, are we in or are we out? So that was where I believed the kind of USP to the consumers was. That was last year, as you know, and sort of the last 18 months, volumes have been very low in the housing market, and that hasn't sold as well as I had hoped that it would do. I passionately believe it's a fantastic piece of software. It is a game changer for people who want information about the property.
should be available on every property.
Well, you
shouldn't
would
it,
have
really?
thought. In actual fact, it turns out that many agents don't like it because it gives rather too much information. Because it gives it is facts, so it gives the nuisances as well as the benefits.
Yes. And of course, agents tend to, because most people don't have B2C marketing budgets, it's going to be a question of will the agents like it. I mean, really, with a report like that, it should be available on every Rightmove listing, so
You would
that when
hope
people
so.
go into, they can click
Yeah.
on it and see what they like.
Yeah.
We all know that the opposite has been happening with a lot of agents, in that they put less and less information.
Yes.
They just put leasehold in the price because they want you to take out the phone. So,
Yeah.
with respect, they can sell you a mortgage or other services. I understand why people do it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I just don't think that'll wash with the younger generation, with the millennials. My kids, when they start getting 26, 27, 28, if they're lucky enough to buy, they're going to want to see that information.
Yeah.
And there will be other people who are willing to provide it,
Yes.
like Move IQ. So they'll be saying and they will probably go and pay that money and go and do it. You've obviously moved from Move IQ Pro, I think,
Yes.
is a sort of
So Move
development of
IQ
that?
Pro is launching now, and that is, I mean, it's almost Move IQ, as you say, was set up to help the consumers, but actually there's a lot of agents out there who might benefit from a bit of guidance, a bit of strategic information about developing their business, how to be a good agent. I mean, the consumer side is how to be a good consumer, how to be a good buyer, how to be a good tenant, how to understand your rights and your obligations, and how to do the deal properly, and all of that. So we are now with Move IQ Pro trying to do the same for the industry, how to be a good agent, how to use your digital marketing, how to get the most out of that, together with linking. As you alluded to, agents, the business of agency it's one thing is selling the house, but actually there's a whole load of side elements that they can generate revenue from, and it's helping. Perhaps it's the smaller agents, and there's many of them, understand and get the best out of all those opportunities and kind of income streams as well.
No, I can see that makes a lot of sense. And again, you've got a good brand to be able to present that information.
I hope so. Thank you.
I mean, it's very, as the internet gets, what's the right word? More and more data gets dumped onto it. Obviously,
Yes.
the ability for people to sort of pull that information and make it available to agents is going to be more and more. There's going to be more and more of it that you can serve up to them.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people like to get all that information in one place. They don't want to have to go to lots of
Yeah, but
different places.
you're right. All of the information is out there, but have you got the time? And do you know where it is?
Yeah.
And have you got time to go and filter through
Yeah.
it and find?
Yeah.
There's good and bad information out there.
Okay.
And you talked about our kids, and I think that generation will probably be better at spotting good information on the internet versus fake news.
Well, I think they already are, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's only the older generation that find it. I mean, I couldn't believe it yesterday. I sat at home, and my phone number at home, which we never advertise or even use because no one does use their home phones these days.
Yes.
I had 2 calls within 10 minutes. One was they were both clearly scams. One was Amazon Prime asking me, I didn't even have an Amazon Prime account, asking me to press 1 to sort of renew my account. It was obviously a scam. And the second one was BT, someone purporting to be from BT saying, oh, your internet's being used illegally, so we're going to cut you off in an hour, as if older people tend to be the ones that fall for that sort of stuff, because so giving those people the information that they need, or giving them the opportunity to pull that information together, I can completely see why that would work. Okay, a couple of things. I mean, most people listen to this on their commute, so they'll probably be almost arriving home. So let's sort of move on.
Yeah.
Couple of questions. Obviously, online agents, a lot of people listening to this will be estate agents. Do you have a view about the online estate agency world and how it's developing?
I think it's developing really nicely. I think it's been valued by the city in an incredible way. But, it's all there to play for. I think it's quite an exciting time. I think one of the businesses always have challenges, but the consumers, it's getting the consumers to understand what they're getting and what they're not getting, what they're paying for and what they're not paying for. And that's got to be sort of improved.
Have you ever had an online agent as one of your agents on
Yes,
TV?
Yes, we have. Just a handful of times. I mean, less than 5. That does actually pose an interesting... It's a difficult one for us because I can't pick up the phone to an agent and try and do the deal at the end of the day, at the end of the programme.
So did you find that the people you were dealing direct with the owners in that case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it just or it just gets a bit bogged down when we are filming, and it genuinely, I mean, it's proper reality television in the way that reality television is not. The Chelsea programs or whatever.
Sure.
It's produced. It's sort of slightly set up a storyline. Ours are genuine. What happens,
Okay.
and people often say, well, that deal seems to. You pick up the phone and the agent's there and he answers the call and it's all done. I do make the phone calls earlier and say, look, I don't know how this is going to go, but if I ring you at 5 o'clock, please can you answer? And we thrash it out. Obviously, it is heavily edited down to make it look quicker, but sometimes that process
it's interesting
will
to
sit
hear you
there
say
for a
that,
long
because
time.
one or two of the criticisms that people have made of online agents in the past, particularly from the agency world, who of course aren't particularly enamoured with what's coming down the line with the online sector. They will be deliberately negative, but they do talk about one of the biggest problems as being involved in chains, trying to get hold of the online part of the chain to get things done. And I think that is changing.
Okay.
I think there is a realization in the online sector that part of the service needs to be hardened up. So I do think there's a change afoot within the industry. But your comments seem to sort of bear that out to some extent.
I'm sort of heavily presuming that the really successful agents in the long term will be companies that are able to invest in doing both the personal service and the high street. Not that they necessarily need a high street presence, but the personal, traditional estate agency model, as well as and at the same time as a genuine.
So would you see that as a sort of menu-based system?
Well,
or sort of either or?
It's an either or, isn't it?
Okay. Well, it'd be very interesting because Countrywide tried that, and that didn't really it didn't seem to work for them. I don't know. I think you're right. I think the problem with that, from the way I see it, Phil, is that people will book the cheap service and expect the expensive service. If you see what I mean.
Again, it's coming back to what people, what you. Understanding what you're getting and what you're not getting.
Transparency, being clear. I think you're right.
It's a really interesting time, and you and I have been around the property industry for a long time, and it is a fascinating industry. It's a fascinating process. It's very central to people's lives. It's deeply important.
So what would you say to someone who's thinking about getting into the property industry? Would you say don't touch it with a barge pole, or would you say great business, get in there?
Well, I love it. You love it.
It's different now, though.
Yeah, I mean, all industries are different. I was only talking to an insurance broker a few weeks ago, and he was saying his business is actually now quite dull because it's all the computer decides whether he can offer someone insurance, not the nice chat that he used to have. And all businesses change. Everyone needs to adapt and move forward.
But do you think someone starting out would have a career? Because if we reckon that everything's going to be done legally at the push of a button, if you could genuinely get a mortgage and your conveyancing done at the push of a button, why would you need estate agents? I mean, is that the future?
I believe that somebody still needs to broker the deal. A good deal needs a willing buyer and a willing seller, but they're not always going to be willing at the same time. And a really good agent is one who can broker that deal and keep everyone pushing in the same direction.
I think that describes it really well. I think that's a really good. I think you've absolutely said it there, and that's why people will continue to need estate agents.
I've always felt that the skill of an agent is not opening the door and showing people around the house.
Yeah, that's what Vuba does.
That's what people. And actually, the skill of the agent isn't necessarily negotiating the price. Obviously, that is a skill, but there are lots of negotiators in lots of different industries that could probably manage that. The skill of the experienced agent is keeping both sides pushing in the same direction, wanting it to happen, and moving the whole thing forward.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where they earn the
Okay,
money.
last question for you. It's been great sitting and talking. I think people will be driving up to their houses now. What would you say if you could say something to yourself to the young Phil? What would you say?
Work a bit harder at school.
Don't
Don't sell the couple of properties that I have sold, but oh goodness me, opportunities. If you see an opportunity, grasp it with both hands.
Yes, I mean my old boss had a wonderful saying, which I put a thing online recently. She used to get a wonderful lady called Rebecca Reed, who's sadly dead. She said, "There's no such thing as luck." She used to get really angry if people would say, "Good luck." Say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you've just said. You
Yeah,
need to be
well-
prepared for that opportunity to come along and grab it.
Yeah.
And you certainly did that and managed to build a very good career for yourself, which you're using on the buy side. So, Phil Spencer, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
You're
And,
very welcome. Nice to talk to you, Ed. Thank you for having me. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.